whenever I took a look at what I was going to be talking about this week, I was a little jealous of Janelle because I would much rather have had her message. I really liked what she had to say, and she did an amazing job, and I just was wishing I could have switched weeks with her because we're going to talk about something today that's not super fun to talk about. So I said, first truth, right? That I was kind of semi-jealous about what Janelle had to talk about, and that's one reason is because I love the thought of that ripple effect that she was communicating about last week, where we begin to share, we begin to pour out what God's doing, and the ripple effect that the church builds. I get excited about that. Sing that song, "Build Your Kingdom Here." I get jacked up when I sing that song because I'm like, yeah, that's what we want, God. Build your kingdom here. We're going to go. And that's easy to get pumped up about those kind of messages, all right? But when I took a look at what we were going to be talking about today, it's not quite as easy to get pumped up. What we're going to be talking about today are trials and tribulations. Yeah. You're excited now, all right? And I was like, oh, no. I don't want to talk about that. And I'll be really honest, here's the reason why. Because I hate trials and tribulations, right? Is it okay to use the word hate? We're trying to tell our son when you can and can't use the word hate. I think that's an okay time, I hate them. Anybody else hate trials and tribulations? Yeah. And I guess where we're at with the AD series, the disciples are going through a lot of trials. They're going through a lot of persecution. And I think that the person who set these messages up, they were really wanting to try to tie in what the disciples were going through at this time with kind of what we're going through. But I think that that's kind of difficult because they were being dragged out of, their homes beaten, and they were being killed, and they were being persecuted. And I've never had to experience anything like that. Maybe being made fun of, I think, when I was a kid for being a Christian, maybe one time. And maybe somebody here who's experienced those strong persecutions, but I think it's difficult when we try to tie too much of a correlation. And so I'm not going to try to do that today. I'm not going to try to say that our experience is like the disciples' experience in any way. It's totally separate. But here's the one thing that is going to be the same, is that they are going through trials, and we go through trials. And so what is a trial? Because that can be the same. So a trial is kind of a Christianese word that we made up to describe a difficult time. A difficult bummer of a deal, something that we wish wouldn't have happened or wouldn't be going on, something that we wish wouldn't be happening to us or to someone we care about. That's a trial, and the reason we call it a trial is because that kind of adds a little bit of meaning to it. As a Christian, we can make it feel not so bad because it's a trial. It's not just a bad situation or a bummer of a deal. So when I'm referring to trials today, that's what I'm talking about. The encompassment of anything difficult, bad, harsh, that you wish wasn't happening is kind of a bummer that, is difficult and hard to deal with. That's a trial today. I think about trial, I think about the word, the courtroom setting. I think about someone being on trial. Sometimes when I'm going through something, I feel like I'm kind of being on trial, And I also think about like a trial run, like a test run for something. Anybody ever taken something for like a trial period? I got a new cell phone yesterday, and I bought this really nice case for it. It's waterproof because I'm accident prone. And there's like a 30-day trial period. If I break anything on the case, I can take it back. Probably will happen on 31 for me, But I don't deal with a lot of things in my work, with my practice, that I have to do trial runs on. But I know builders, people like that, have to do that. I'm sure Chad, he's in here today. He probably has a trial run on some things, right, Chad, every once in a while, like a tool or something. And so the trial period, you would take this thing, and it better work the way that it's supposed to work, but you only get a certain amount of time to figure it out, right? And after that amount of time, if you don't know that it works by then, or if it breaks, if it's after the trial, what happens? Stuck with it. Angela's not happy, right? Because she told him to take it back the week before, and he didn't listen to her. And now, no, I'm just kidding. That's a trial too. That can be a trial type of a situation where you're seeing if it's proving its worth or its value. But either way, I hate them. Both kinds. Any kind of trial. As I hate it, I think if we're all honest that we would all feel that way, that we hate trials. So I'm going to tell you why today I hate trials. And I was preparing for this message yesterday, and I was here at the church. I was kind of get the worship stuff lined out, and I was getting my message lined out. And my 4-year-old son, Will, was with me. And now usually Will's not allowed to come when I go to do things like this because I need quiet, to be able to focus. But I could tell yesterday, Rachel, she's with child and was tired-ish. Looked lovely, though, by the way. But she's tired and worn out. She kind of gave me one of those looks like, yeah, it'd be really nice if you'd take him, and he's whining. He wants to come with me. I'm like, oh, my gosh. We were trying to get to Great Falls yesterday evening, and I was trying to get this done. I wanted to get it all lined out, sent to Mike so he could take a look at it. I'm like, okay, fine. You can come with me. And it was amazing. He actually was calm, which is very unusual if you've ever been around Will. He's just not really calm. And he was playing with some cars, and he had like some coloring books, and he's coloring. And I'm like, this is going really well. And Will, thanks for being such a good boy for Dad. I really appreciate it, and I'm focusing on my message. And after a little while, he kind of goes behind my guitar case, and I'm not sure what he was doing. So Sydney and Rob, if he unplugged something back there, I apologize. But he was underneath the soundboard, and he's like messing with stuff. And like, oh, what are you doing, buddy? Hey, is everything okay? And I'm kind of making sure he's not doing anything wrong, but I'm still focusing on my message. It's all going well, and in a minute, I begun to hear this sound. And it started off kind of like this shrieky pitch, kind of like a type of thing. And it was coming from this side, and it begins to rise, and it goes like from E to like, kind of like up like that. Yeah. And I look over, and I still don't know how he accomplished what he accomplished, but he was messing with my guitar case, and he had the door, the top of the guitar case had shut. Now, he had his hand on the back part, not the front part, but the back part. So the pressure of that, and his finger was caught in the guitar case. And it begins to grow even louder. And he's just screaming, and I've got to do one of those things where I'm like frantically trying to get the lid up so that he can pull his finger out. So I got his finger out, and I'm running around the church, and he's just screaming, and I'm trying to find a Band-Aid. I'm called Becca Sarugi, and I'm like, Becca, where's the Band-Aid? Where's the first aid kit? And our room over there is kind of a mess as we're remodeling that section, so we can't find the Band-Aids. I finally find one, put the Band-Aid on there. I put the ice on there, but the sound continues. He's still making the same exact sound. And he's screaming, and it's kind of bloody and bruised, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, what do I do? And this is for dads. This is like where our expertise ends, And so I put him in the car, and I like just rushed like crazy to the house, and I run in, basically just like poof, kick the door down, and I'm like, where's Rachel? And I find her, and I just hand him to her, just like, I'm done. I don't know what to do. And so she takes him just like mothers do, and she gets him over in our little chair, and she's rocking him, and she's got some ice, and he's still making the same sound. And in a while, these things start to come out of his mouth. And this was a trial for my son. We've all been through. Anybody pinch their finger in something? That hurts, doesn't it? I mean, it's not fun. And it hurts for a while. It's not something that's like a little hurt that's gone. I mean, that hurts. And it stays hurting for a period of time. And he doesn't understand that it's going to be a period of time. Like, we've all been there. We've done it. So the next time you shut your finger in something, you'll be like, yeah, this hurts, but it's going to go away. He doesn't know that. For him, this could be like the permanent situation. All right? This is it. And so he's screaming, and some things begin to come out of his mouth while he's in the middle of this trial. All right? And here's a couple of the things that come out of his mouth. I'm going to try my best to do an impersonation of him, okay? He's like, I don't like this! Sorry, buddy. Says that a couple more times. And then in a minute, make it stop! Oh, yeah, sorry, Rachel's over there, rocking him, and I'm like, and this was my favorite one. A little while later, he goes, just cut my finger off! I loved it. Just take it. Can't deal with this pain. Just take the finger. I'll be done. And I was like, it kind of sounds a lot like me when I'm in a trial, when I'm going through something. This is my prayer life starts to sound a lot like that. Like, I can't take it, God. I don't like it. Just take my finger off. Just take it. Cut the situation. I don't have to deal with it. Take that person away. And that's why I hate trials. All right? And why maybe you do too. The first real reason is just kind of like Will was going through this trial, and this difficulty, this pain is very uncomfortable, obviously. The trial makes us feel uncomfortable, right? Makes us feel uncomfortable. We like comfort. Anything that makes us feel uncomfortable we get away from or we change, right? Pretty quickly. Well, at least if you're anything like me. Am I the only one? You guys are just looking at me. I can prove it, okay? Anybody have a favorite chair in your house, like a spot you like to sit? My favorite chair, okay? When Rachel and I first moved to Shelby, when we first moved to Montana, we had nothing. We had camping chairs set up in front of a TV. We only had the TV because our parents had bought her that when she was in school. And the first purchase we made, to show you where our priorities were at, we bought a nice leather couch, you know? Like two stupid kids. Like, what are you buying? A leather couch. You have nothing. But that was it. That was number one. We wanted a comfortable place to sit. And so I always sat in the same spot. If you're sitting on the couch, it'd be the far right side, you know? My hand right here, watching the TV. Pretty soon we started to notice something that was my favorite spot, and there was evidence because that was the spot where the couch was lower, you know? And then my wife's was higher, you know? So we had to kind of start switching, but I felt comfortable there. I felt good there. That's where I wanted to be anytime we were watching TV. And so I sat there, and you probably have a spot like that too. So I started thinking about this like sitting thing. What is it about us with sitting? And I started paying attention to other situations, and so I'm a counselor, and I have clients who come into my office. My office in Fairfield has 2 chairs, okay? 2 chairs. They're exactly alike. I started watching, and my clients would come in. They would sit in the same chair every time. One of the 2, and I would sit in the other one. I thought, well, maybe it's like a 50-50 shot, you know? So maybe they just pick one every time, and they just happen to pick the same one over and over again. So I started watching because I'll use this office over here sometimes. There's several chairs. There's probably about 10 or 11 spots you could actually sit. I started watching. They would come and sit in the same spot. And I would sit in a different spot close to them, you know, the same place every time, which makes sense because you come into a situation like that. It can be kind of uncomfortable. You want a place of comfort. And I thought, okay, where else is this chair thing happening, you know? Are we just that crazy, like comfort seekers, that we have to sit in certain places? And so I started watching at church, right? Gulp. And I'm just as bad. I sit right there. There's my wife. I sit right there. I sit right there because my music stuff is on this side now. It used to be on that side, and I used to sit right there. And I could blame it on the fact that I, you know, have to get to the stage quickly, I guess, if there's a worship emergency type thing going on. But the reality is I feel comfortable right there. Let me ask you, how many of you guys sit in the same spot in this sanctuary every Sunday? Or if you come to church, you try to find the same spot, the same area, right? We feel comfortable. All right? So it's going to get a little weird today. It's going to get a little uncomfortable, and we're going to start right now. All right? So if you are physically able, or you don't have like 13 billion bags that you brought because you have 5 kids or something like that, I'm going to challenge you to get up today and move to a new spot in this sanctuary. All right? Your name is not engraven on that chair, I promise you. And get weird with it. Go somewhere new, like go crazy. If you're in the back, normally go to the front. If you're a right-sider, go left. I mean, really get weird with it. Find a new spot. Sit next to somebody maybe you don't even know. I don't know. You can't not claim a new spouse. Don't do that. Keep the same husband or wife. Keep the same husband or wife. If you want a new child, though, a different kid, you could sit next to somebody else's kids today. Just go nuts. All right, if you're a visitor today, we don't normally play musical chairs in the middle of the service. But we're going to get a little uncomfortable. Shake things up. Find a seat. This does not have to necessarily become your new seat, okay, in church. So some of you are picking it like, all right, let's see the lighting and the trajectory of the screen. What's the wind like at this? Okay, now I can sit here. It's not that bad. All right. You guys look a little different, all right? Does it feel a little different? It's a little different. JC doesn't like it. All right, it's a little uncomfortable. Now, this isn't a message against sitting in the same place every Sunday. You can go for it. But here's the thing. We fight trials and difficulties in our lives because they make us feel uncomfortable. James 1:2-4 says this, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." How many patient people are in here, like really love to be patient? Like I find the longest line at Walmart and I stand in it, you know, just because I love it. How comforting is being patient? Sometimes being patient is the most uncomfortable, horrible thing, especially when you're in the middle of a difficult circumstance. Nobody wants to be in the middle of a trial and try to have patience. We want God to take care of that thing now. Right now. Do it now. In this, be done with it. Now, sometimes that does happen. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But according to this verse, what does this patience produce? Makes us complete. So we're like in this process, and you're telling me that if I can be patient with this discomfort that I feel right now, that somehow it's bringing some sort of completion in the work that God is doing in my life. Maybe. How many times, I know I do this, you pray to God to change something in your life, and then you get frustrated because he doesn't act on your time schedule like when you want him to. And so you get all irritated with God, you know? Part of the reason that I don't like trials is because I don't really like God's time frame as much as I like my own sometimes. You know? Because if I can have it in my time frame, then life can get back to how I like it, and I'll feel more comfortable with my situation. When that doesn't happen, I'm left kind of vulnerable, and it leads to the second reason that I hate trials, and that's because they make me feel weak. 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10 says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me. Lest I be exalted above measure, concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." This is Paul talking. The Message version of this begins with, "And so I wouldn't get a big head. This was allowed into my life." And I kind of like that a lot, and I thought about that a lot. Like, Paul's got all these amazing things that he's doing, these revelations that are coming about through him. He's expanding the kingdom of Christ, you know. People are coming to know him. There's all these miracles that are happening. And he's like, yeah. And I was like starting to feel like the man, you know. And so I wouldn't get a big head, so I wouldn't think too much of myself. This thing was allowed into my life, and it kind of shrunk me down to size. I used to tell people that when I was in school, they'd kind of make fun of me for my height. And I'd say, you know, I wasn't actually supposed to be short. But it became very apparent throughout the early part of my life that I was perfect in every other way, and so God had to do something quick, you know. So he stunted my growth. Yeah. It was actually coffee that did it. Sometimes we start getting pretty high on ourselves and our own abilities, don't we? You know? We really, really, really like it when we feel powerful or like we have the ability to do or change whatever's going on in our lives. But it seems to be this principle that sometimes God will actually bring us to a place where we're weak. Why? Not so he can kick us, you know, so that we can actually experience his strength. That's a good place to be. Anybody in here not like the feeling of being out of control? Any OCD people in here? All right, 2 hands for me. If I was going to probably diagnose myself, I've got a few things. It's actually why I became a counselor, to figure out my own problems, right? But that would be one of them, because I have this belief system. I don't know where I got it from, but if I can manage, you know, every penny of finances in our lives and know where everything's going and where it's coming from, then somehow nothing bad could ever happen, you know. I don't know if it's just in our household or if the universe in general is a part of that. I'm not sure. And I have the same belief. This is where it gets really weird. If my grass looks really nice, you know, if it's mowed really nice, if it's really green, if it's clipped and I've, you know, done the edging just right, that like every other circumstances in my life will fall into alignment, you know, behind the perfect yard. I didn't say it was right, you know. I just said that's how I am. And I think they're control based, you know? Because if I can experience control in those areas, then maybe I can control this area and I can control this. I can keep all my areas nice and controlled and I can just look at them and they're so nice. That's my strength. Right? That's me. That's Aaron Skaggs being able to control all these different situations. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I am saying is sometimes it seems like there's circumstances that come along in our lives and they like mess up all of our little neat piles, you know? Like Will running through the leaves right after I've raked them, you know? He's like, ha-ha. Like, no! I had that perfect. This pile ready to go. Now what? And God's like, yes, finally. Finally, you're in a place where it's not about your strength, it's about my strength. How's the end of that verse go again? For when I am weak, then I am strong. There's this really awesome thing that happens in our lives when we finally get to that place where we feel weak in a certain area, that we don't feel complete in a certain area. We see the glory of God revealed through us. All of a sudden in our lives, it's like there was this missing source of power, you know? And when we are taken out of the equation, I mean me, and it's not on my strength because it's my weakness and I'm finally relying and trusting upon God because I can't do it anymore. It's like, yeah, I finally got you where I want you. Now I can use you to do amazing things. But I still hate trials. Trials really make me question my faith. James 1:5-8 says this, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God who gives to all liberally and without reproach. And it will be given to him, but let him ask in faith with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. For let no man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Any double-minded people in here? I had to kind of admit to myself this week that when I go through a trial, I struggle to like practice what I preach, you know? If I'm not going through a trial, I can do most of the things that like I tell people to do, maybe the youth on Wednesday night or maybe even clients that I work with, you know, giving them a piece of advice. I can normally do that when things are going well for me, but when trials happen, when things start to go not so well, all of a sudden, I go running to like other things, you know? Maybe myself, like we just talked about, or maybe something else. Maybe some negative thing. That I seek it out to try to help because I had faith and when everything was going good, but all of a sudden this trial, and it's taking a little bit too long, and now that faith in God is beginning to waver. Is he really going to come through? Or should I take matters into my own hands? Any golfers? Any people who like to golf? Yeah. I like to golf and I'm horrible at it. I think Bobby Jones was the one who said, you know, you can really tell the character of a man when you take him out on the golf course. Anybody ever heard that before? So you should hear half the things that come out of my mouth when I'm golfing. And then a lot of the things that are in my head when I'm golfing, like you don't want to hear those things. So you take a man out on a golf course or something like a situation where he's not super comfortable, and all of a sudden it doesn't go well for him, and then like the true character comes out. It's not just what I say, now I'm put to the test. It's the pressure's on. How am I going to respond? And a lot of times in my life, I'm kind of like that frustrated guy out on the golf course, you know? I mean, I might say and do a lot of things that I never would normally say and do, but now the pressure's on. Now it's difficult. You know? I'm going through a trial. And I'm faced with this junk, and I don't like it. And before it's like, oh yeah, God's in control, man. Hey, bless you, God's going to do it. And now it's like, ah! Will screaming out, just cut my finger off. Sometimes when God really wants to test, I think, what you have your faith in, you know? And it's not a test like, you better pass. If you get an F on this test, well then, sorry, you know? You're bumped to the second class level of heavenly mansions. You don't get any grass in your front yard, and, you know, you get a pear tree instead of an apple tree. I mean, I don't think that's how God working, but more to test, like, he wants you to know where you're at, because sometimes that's not a good place. And that's something you need to know. That how I respond when I'm in these situations and circumstances is based more on head knowledge than heart knowledge about God. I really believe this, and this is something that's more and more God's been, I think, trying to beat into my skull. Mike talked about this a few weeks ago. What is it that moves the hand of God? It's faith, right? We're saved by faith. When we ask and pray for healing or for God to show up, we do it in faith. But how often does the stuff not happen that God wants to do in my life because my faith is so weak, you know? I think that it's relatively easy to have faith when you pray for God to heal something the first time. You know? I think it's significantly harder to pray with the exact same amount of faith the second time. And then if God still doesn't do it, it gets really hard, right? To pray the third time with the same amount of faith that you prayed with the first time for God to do that thing. That takes faith. That's real faith, right? When it still hasn't happened and I've been praying about this situation, circumstance, maybe it's a physical issue, maybe it's something else. What do I typically do? The first time, faith. Second time, little less faith. Third time, little less faith. Fourth time, no, my faith meter. That was it. That was what that was. It's like cold, you know? It's gone. Like, all right, fine, God. Whatever. I guess I'll deal with this one. All right, here we go. It's back to me. See, that's right when I kind of recognize, oh, that's the level of faith that I have. I thought I had more faith, but I don't have as much faith maybe as I thought I did. Because I wasn't able to keep believing, to keep pressing in. And maybe that's what that whole thing that the Lord was revealing to me in that clip today. What God wants to do is set some people free, because maybe there's been some people like me in here, and you've been significantly experiencing less and less faith over the last weeks and months because maybe things aren't changing or getting better for you. And right now your faith, you know, really needs, like the tongue, what are those things called? Something today to boost it. And maybe today is about you finally saying, okay, do I really believe what I've said I believe? Do I really believe that God is the same God, whether he takes care of this thing the first time I pray or the 13,000th time I pray? Can I approach him with the same amount of faith and believe? I mean, really ask yourself that question. You have to. If you're in the middle of a trial and a circumstance like that, I don't know. Maybe God really wants to juice up your faith today. But I still hate trials. They make me question God's power. This is Exodus 17, 1 through 7, said, Then all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the commandment of the Lord, and camped in Rephidim. I think that's how you say it. But there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people contended with Moses and said, Give us water, that we may drink. So Moses said to them, Why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt the Lord? And the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, Why is it that you brought us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, What shall I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me. And the Lord said to Moses, Go on before the people, and stand with some of your elders of Israel. Also take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river, and go. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. So he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the contention of the children of Israel, because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? The real key in this is Exodus 17:6. The Lord says, I will stand there before you. That phrase, I will stand there before you, means for an inferior to stand before his superior. An inferior to stand before his superior. It's the same phrase used when Esther stood before Xerxes, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood before Nebuchadnezzar, or the Magi stood before Herod. It implies this inferior person standing before an inferior person to be judged. This is the God who created heaven and earth who says, I will stand there. I will stand there and let them accuse me. I'll stand there and take it. C.S. Lewis says, the ancient man approached God as the accused person approaches his judge. For the modern man, the roles are reversed. He is the judge, God is on the dock, and the trial may even end in God's acquittal. But the important thing is that man is on the bench and God is on the dock. How often do we put God in that position where we accuse him because our circumstances haven't changed? We begin to question even his power. Can you even do anything? Maybe we've experienced his power before. I'll tell you, that doesn't necessarily change this point. When you're in the middle of a trial, a difficult circumstance, and you're struggling, sometimes we place God right there and say, all right. We make accusations against him. We fling our frustration and our anger, the whys. And he stands there and takes it. And I believe he will every time, because I think he's a big enough God to take that, you know? I think he can handle it. But the issue is, we know faith is the economy of heaven. It's what we use in our relationship with God to experience more and more of his power. Our faith yields new things as fruit. Our faith changes in circumstances. It changes atmospheres. This church has to be a church of faith. If it's not a church of faith, we might as well just leave. Shut the doors, lock them, you know. Maybe put in like a hard floor. We could have a skating ring. I thought that'd be kind of cool to have in town anyways, you know. Disco light in the middle. Ghostbusters, you know. Playing as you rock around. Yeah, she likes it. It would be better used as that than it would be a church without faith. But here's the problem is, like, we've gotten to this place of frustration where we've just started accusing God because maybe he's not shown up in the way we wanted him to, and we've even questioned his ability and his power. And so we're all like, yay, on Sunday. But then we leave, and we expect nothing. We have no expectation. I don't even know if he can do it anyway. And that becomes our relationship with our God. We expect nothing. We're not even sure what he's capable of doing. I wrote this in here. Don't base truth only on your experience. That's how cynics are born. You should have an experience to your faith, right? But you shouldn't base your faith on your experience. You really shouldn't base your theology on your experience. And you really shouldn't base what God's capable of on your experience. Right? Well, how should I approach it? I shouldn't be so whiny and hate these trials. How should I approach these trials? Well, first you have to realize, I have to realize, that God does not cause these trials. God's not up there spinning junk and throwing it at you to like, oh, see what they do this time. Phew. Well, then what does cause them? Remember, I didn't say God doesn't allow these. He doesn't cause them. Who does cause them? Satan causes them. Fallen world that we live in, right? We live in an imperfect place. And there's a third one that I think is really, really relevant. We cause them. You know? That's probably the first place that I should look. If I'm in the middle of a difficult circumstance or a trial, it's like, did I do this? You know? Did I cause this? Is this it? Oh, yeah. Maybe that's exactly what the Lord's trying to do, is to help you stop doing that, you know? Like, quit. Just stop doing that. He's allowing you to go through a little difficulty because your approach needs to change in life. The way you do what you do needs to change. The way I do what I do needs to change. I'm talking to myself here. So I get, my own mess, and then I'm frustrated with God. I'm like, well, God, why aren't you doing something about this? And he's like, because if I did, you'd do the exact same thing again, like 2 weeks from now. You'd be in just as big of a mess, if not bigger. Here's another approach. We stop asking why and we start asking what. Why asks, why did this happen, God? Why aren't you doing something? Why did you let this happen? What asks, what are you trying to accomplish in my life through this? What are you trying to accomplish in your kingdom through this? It's a quote from John Eldridge. The only thing more tragic than the tragedy that happens to us is the way we handle it. Say that again. The only thing more tragic than the tragedy that happens to us is the way we handle it. We've been reading Wild at Heart. This is an awesome book John Eldridge wrote with our high school boys' small group. And John Eldridge talks about the wound in this book. We've all been wounded in some way. Something that's happened to you earlier on in your life, maybe when you were a child or later, and it was something somebody said or something somebody did, but it wounded something inside of you. And typically what we do is we spend the rest of our lives trying to deflect attention from that wounded area. And if you look at the thing that the person overcompensates in, that's typically the thing that it was probably wounded about them, That's why I spike my hair so high, You can finally find out. It's like, I can't be vulnerable in this area. Because if I'm vulnerable in this area, it hurts. It goes right back to some wounded place inside of me. And so, typically what happens is you start going through a difficult circumstance, and it touches that area again, It's reveals that area. And you're like, why, God, is this happening? And he's like, it's because I want to heal that. I don't want you to have to deal with that. I don't want you to have that wounded place, because that wounded place causes a lot of dysfunction in your life. It causes a lot of problems for you in your relationships. It causes you to respond that way to your kids, to your husband, to your wife, or to your coworkers. That wounded place inside of you causes you to do a lot of dumb stuff. The reason this is going on inside of your life right now, I want to reveal that wound. I want to pull all the bandages off. I want to rip it open so that I can heal that place inside of you. So you can stop being so afflicted by the circumstances that you've gone through and the tragedies of life. I want to heal those places inside of you so that you can finally experience this Christian life thing, this power that other people seem to have. But you've been so afraid, you've been living in fear for so long because of the hurt that you've experienced in your life, that you don't know how to have my power in your life. You're afraid that if I started using you, it would expose you. Woo. We are in a process. But that doesn't mean we ever stop expecting God to intervene. Pray for healing. Pray for restoration. Pray for wisdom and direction. Romans 8:15-18 says this, "For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. For I consider that the present sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us." Once you recognize that you're a child of the King, you realize that it's your birthright to ask your dad for anything. By this Spirit we cry out, Abba, Father. That's like a kid saying, Daddy, Daddy. You know who you are. You know that you can ask. If you don't know who you are in Christ, you don't know what you should and shouldn't be asking for. Many of us have bought into the lie of the enemy that it's all based upon what we do, right? Well, yeah, of course God uses Pastor Mike. I mean, he's like next to perfect, you know? Gandhi, and then it's Mike somewhere under there. That's why he's able to do the things that he does. No. It's because Pastor Mike knows who he is. You know? And the more I've been trying to figure this thing out and figure out who I am and live out of that, experience my life out of my true identity in Christ, that I'm a son, and not just any son. I'm son of the Most High King. I'm an heir to the throne, and so are you. The more I realize that and I begin to live out of that, I begin to experience the power of God flowing through me. And not just in my own circumstances, but in other people's circumstances too. Because that's when it gets really cool. Is not only is it like God's doing something in my life, in my circumstances right now, but like I'm seeing something over here in this person's life, and I know who I am. I'm in right standing with the Father, and I can go and minister to that person. It's weird, all right? But it's really cool. And when God begins to use us like that, to use this church like that, we find out who we are in Christ. And we don't base our understanding of who we are on, am I going through a struggle now or not? That doesn't change things. I can hate trials all day long. I still do, okay? But I'm really learning to value and appreciate them. The thing that I'm not doing is I'm not letting them change my identity in Christ. So no matter what my life looks like, the good days and the bad days, the really awesome ones where I'm just like flowing and everything's going, and the days where I just like, oh, why did I even get out of bed? My identity is the same. My God is the same. He's just as willing to use me today as he was yesterday, and he's so excited about my imperfection. That's weird, right? God's so thrilled with your imperfection. He loves it. It's like he tells all of his, angels about it. Like, dude, this is where her weakness is at. God, and when she ever learns to just accept it, I'm going to be so huge in her life. I'm going to do some amazing things through her. When he just gets to the point where he doesn't have to start putting on a front for everyone and just lets himself be vulnerable, when he gets there, I just can't wait for that day. So excited. I'm going to be so huge in his life. I'm going to do such amazing things through him. When he finally gets there, I just can't wait. God doesn't make us messed up in some sick, twisted way. But he knows your junk. He knows your insufficiencies. And sometimes in the middle of these trials, when we finally get to that place, it's like we can experience this new growth in our lives, this newness, this freshness. Maybe that's where you're at today, you know? Maybe you've been going through a difficult circumstance, some sort of trial or something that's just been really hard. And maybe God is just waiting to show you his power, but he's just really excited about you understanding this aspect of faith. And he wants to renew your faith today. Did you know we can pray for more faith? We can pray that God would increase our faith. So in a minute when we start worshiping and we have our prayer partners up here, make that your prayer. I need more faith because I want to see God's power. I've just bought into the lie that he wasn't going to do anything, that he couldn't do anything. And today he wants to blow your socks off and he wants to show you something amazing. Ask for more faith to believe that that's possible. Maybe some of you guys have been running for so long from some difficulty or some circumstance, some wound, some place that you didn't want it to be exposed. Man, let God rip off the bandage today. Come talk with one of our prayer partners or somebody else that you trust and just say, this is it. This is what God's been showing me. And the cool thing is going to be, like, he's going to heal that place in you. But I think what he's going to start doing, he's going to start using that thing to glorify himself. And you're going to start ministering and functioning out of a place that you never thought was possible. You're going to find new strength in Christ out of a place of weakness today. Some of you just need to, man, just test him, you know? He can take it. Just you and God. You don't need a prayer partner for that. Like, God, what's up? I've been going through this for a while now, and it's not changing. My circumstances are staying the same. What's up? Wrestle with him a little bit. Wrestle. If you need to, you know? You and God. Have it out. But listen, because he will reveal his truth. He wants to do that. He will do it. But you have to listen. I don't want to be that double-minded guy anymore. You know? Would you guys hold me accountable to that? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who says it and knows the truth of the Bible, but then when the pressure's on, I can't hack it anymore. I do the exact opposite. Try to find some source of peace that can never even bring that in my life. I don't want to be that way anymore. I want to stand when the waves come, when that adversity comes. I want to stand. I want to stand strong. And I want that not just for me, but for this church body. God, use your tender, loving hands to pull back and expose places within us that have been causing dysfunction in our lives. I just really believe today somebody has been believing a lie, a name that they were called when they were younger. I kind of feel like it's a guy. You've allowed this hurt, this wounded place, this name that you were called, to cause you to do a lot of really stupid things, to try to prove everybody wrong. God wants to give you a new name today. He wants to heal that place, and he wants to give you a new name. There's someone here today that has been doubting God's power. Either it's because you haven't been able to see, like your eyes are damaged, or you just feel like you're blind. You're walking around blind. Maybe it's both. God wants to heal that today. He wants to heal those eyes, physically heal them, but he wants to restore sight to your circumstance today. He wants to heal the blindness that you feel. He wants to provide you with direction. He's here. He's in this place. His presence is here. Will you take access? Will you take hold? Will you resist out of fear because it's uncomfortable? Let him be God today.